Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
This is Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Martinez.
And I'm Layla Faldin.
Marketplace Morning Report is coming up next, and then in 10 minutes at 9 o'clock, it's the BBC NewsHour on WNYC. Let's check in with London to see what they're working on. London, good morning.
Good morning, WNYC. I'm Tim Franks. On today's NewsHour, the Iranian women's rights campaigner Narges Mohammadi wins the Nobel Peace Prize. That's BBC NewsHour, coming up at 9 on WNYC.
68 and overcast with fog out there this morning. A chance of showers later this morning. Patchy fog, cloudy and 72. And then tomorrow we'll have to look out for heavy rainfall with the threat of flash flooding as the temperatures fall to the low 60s. It's 8:51.
WNYC supporters include the Met, now on view. Manet, Degas explains the friendship and rivalry between the French artists who defined modern painting. Museum admission is pay as you wish for New Yorkers. Learn more at metmuseum.org.
WNYC has a strong, reliable base of support all year long, thanks to our monthly sustaining donors. If you're a WNYC sustainer and you've received a new credit card recently, please take a moment to update your information. Better yet, use your checking account so you never have to worry about new cards again. Make your update online at wnyc.org/update or call 888-376-WNYC. Thank you for supporting independent public radio.
A big surprise in the September jobs report.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by C3 AI. C3 Generative AI provides ChatGPT enterprise search that is verifiable, secure, and accurate across all enterprise data. C3.ai. This is Enterprise AI.
From Marketplace, I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer in for David Brancaccio. The Bureau of Labor Statistics just released its official jobs tally for the month of September. 336,000 jobs were created last month, way more than expected. That's despite high inflation that's led the Federal Reserve to hike interest rates at the fastest pace in 4 decades. Julia Coronado is founder and president of Macro Policy Perspectives. She joins me now live. So, Julia, what's behind this blowout jobs number for September?
Well, a lot. There's a lot of sectors that are hiring. It's not just one funny sector that's driving things, and it came with upward revisions. So this is still just a very strong job market.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting some real mixed signals from this jobs report because way more jobs were created than economists predicted, but it doesn't look like that will cause inflation to heat up as you would expect.
Well, that's right. The unemployment rate stayed at 3.8%. It did not go down, and wage growth is actually slowing. So there are some mixed signals in this report, and that makes the Fed's decision on what to do next much more complicated.
Right, because the Fed has been raising interest rates to try to tame inflation. Julia is also a professor at the University of Texas, Austin. Thank you, Julia.
My pleasure.
Let's do the numbers. The Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are down, with the Dow future down more than 150 points. The 10-year Treasury yield is down at 4.7%. This year's Nobel Peace Prize was awarded today to jailed Iranian activist Narges Mohammadi. Earlier this week, the 2023 Nobel for Literature went to Norwegian author Jon Fosse. While he's known in much of the world, he hasn't been a household name in the U.S. Only 12,000 copies of his work have been sold here since 2004, according to Circana. Marketplace's Stephanie Hughes looks at how the book industry is preparing for a bump in sales.
The North American publisher of several of Jon Fosse's books is Transit Books. It's less than a decade old and run by Adam Levy and his wife out of their home in the Bay Area. When they learned this week that Fosse won the Nobel,
we quickly made coffee and got to work in our living room.
They had already planned to release 2 of Fosse's works in paperback later this month, including what's been called his magnum opus, Septology. That'll be 5,000 copies each, but now they're looking at printing at least 10,000 additional copies of each work. And Levy notes that printing a book takes up to 2 months.
It's slow. And so one of the tasks for any publisher, really, regardless of your size, is to figure out how you meet a huge surge in demand.
There could also be demand for Foss's many other works that have yet to be released here.
He's very prolific. He does children's books and poetry and essays and short stories and novels.
Damien Searles has translated a number of Foss's books into English and expects that work to continue
at perhaps a somewhat faster pace.
Meanwhile, publisher Adam Levy hopes others in the industry take note of Transit's success with its new Nobel laureate and are inspired to take chances on authors who've yet to find an audience in the U.S. I'm Stephanie Hughes for Marketplace.
Surging interest rates are intensifying the challenges for the U.S. economy and threatening to derail the Federal Reserve's drive to tame inflation without causing a deep recession. Since midsummer, the yield on the 10-year Treasury note has steadily climbed, causing a spillover rise in other borrowing costs. The costs of mortgages, auto loans, and credit card debt have all risen in response. The collective impact of higher rates across the economy could also weaken the government's own finances. The jump in longer-term rates coincides with other threats from higher gas prices and this week's resumption of student loan payments to auto workers' ongoing strike and the risk of a government shutdown next month. And speaking of that strike, there are reports this morning that GM has made a counteroffer to end the auto workers' strike. We're expecting an update this afternoon from UAW President Shawn Fain.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Amazon Business, helping provide a smarter, easier way to get the supplies businesses need to thrive. Amazon Business, your partner for smart business buying. And by How We Survive. Climate change is dire, but it does not have to be world-ending. New season of How We Survive from Marketplace, available wherever you get your podcasts.
The union representing film and television actors, SAG-AFTRA, is scheduled to continue negotiations today with studio executives and the alliance representing TV and movie producers. The talks restarted earlier this week. The actors' strike has lasted 2.5 months so far. Streaming remains a sticking point in negotiations. As more and more content lands on streaming platforms, actors want to share the revenue. Abraham Ravid, a finance professor at Yeshiva University, says this issue will be hard to nail down. The union representing film and television actors, SAG-AFTRA, is scheduled to continue negotiations today with studio executives and the alliance representing TV and movie producers. The talks restarted earlier this week. The actors' strike has lasted 2.5 months so far. Streaming remains a sticking point in the negotiations. As more and more content lands on streaming platforms, actors want to share the revenue. Abraham Ravid, a finance professor at Yeshiva University, says this issue will be hard to nail down.
And Netflix produces a movie, then it gives it free to its subscribers. The percentage or anything that's based on viewership is much more problematic than, say, sharing theatrical revenues, because there's a number. Say I make $1 million, you can get 2% of this. That's easy.
Another point of contention, the use of artificial intelligence in TV and movie production. The Hollywood Writers Union, that just ended its strike last week, won some guardrails around the use of AI. Ravid thinks it should be even easier for the actors to sort this out.
You can do a lot of things with AI within writing, and therefore, if you read the agreement for the writers, there's some things that are left open. For the actors, it's a little simpler, because all we're saying here is don't use my image without paying, and that can be easier to agree on and litigate.
And while there's no clear timetable for a new contract, Ravid is optimistic about negotiations, especially. And this is APM.
WNYC's broadcast of Marketplace Morning Report is supported in part by Mount Sinai Tisch Cancer Center. More information on personalized cancer treatment options are available at mountsinai.org/cancer.
It's WNYC in New York.